Welcome back to my little channel. Now I know I haven't made a lot of videos lately, but I have been live streaming and live streaming has been fun too. But today I decided to make a video once again. I should do it more often, I guess. But this was something that came close to me being angry. So yeah, made sense for me to address this. Now we have seen a few mass shootings again. And I know in America people like to think mass shootings are a big thing because they happen every day. Well, in a way they are right, but not in the way they think. But every single one of them is one too many, so I'm not even going to try to make fun or light of that. Mass shootings are a problem. And it never fails. But when there is a mass shooting in America, there is going to be a politician who's going to try and use it for his own good. You'd think that an ex-president wouldn't. But it seems that Barrack Obama doesn't feel that as an ex-president he should not interfere with the current president and basically try to push his narrative even more. So what am I talking about? Well, let's be honest. I'm talking about a post that he transmitted to everyone via Twitter. This one to be precise. Michelle and I grieve with the families of El Paso and Dayton who endured these latest mass shootings. Even if details are still emerging, there are a few things that we already know to be true. The thing with politicians is that when they say that there are things that we already know to be true, you need to listen twice and start finding the holes in their narrative. Not because you want to find holes, but because as humans we tend to not step into holes, we like to step over them. And that's what they are using. This is true for the reality of things. I mean, if you're walking in the street and you see a hole, you step over it. But funny enough, this is also true for stories. And Barack Obama is spinning a great one. First, no other nation on earth comes close to the experience of frequency of mass shootings than the United States. And you know what? That may be true, but at the same time, it kind of isn't. And let me try to explain to you why it isn't. Here is a Wikipedia article. Now, I'm not a great fan of using Wikipedia, but considering this is the talk we're having, it'll do. Why do I say it'll do? Because Wikipedia articles have the tendency to be edited by left-wing extremists. So if it's still on Wikipedia, then the left-wing extremists either haven't noticed it yet or agree with it. Okay, so what do I mean with that? Well, a mass shooting is an incident involving multiple victims of firearm-related violence. There is no widely accepted definition of the term mass shooting, however. Although it is normally understood to exclude mass killings as a result of terrorist, authorized law enforcement or authorized military action. The United States Congressional Research Service acknowledges that there is not a broadly accepted definition and defines a public mass shooting as an event where someone selects 4 or more people indiscriminately and kills them. So 4 or more people getting shot during one incident is a mass shooting. Thing is, this does happen a lot. I'm not going to deny that this doesn't. But, I'm sorry, they're already claiming terrorist is not part of what a mass shooting is. But most of the shootings we have seen lately fall under the category of terrorism. I'm sorry, but if you try to shoot people to further your political agenda, that's terrorism. But when it's done by someone who is perceived to be white, it's still considered a mass shooting. Can someone please explain that to me? That when a Muslim, and I'm not blaming all Muslims, hashtag not all and all that, but when a Muslim shoots up something, and this happened under Obama's watch as well, this is the funny thing, there was this Muslim guy who shot up a lot of people, and it was called, well, it wasn't a mass shooting, but a lot of people died. But it wasn't also really called a terrorist incident, it was called an incident in itself. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that too deep because shit happens, and this was shit, and it falls on the shoulder of the hand that holds the gun, so to speak. So I'm not wanting to put blame on anyone other than the person who did the shooting. But it is funny that when it's a white guy, it's considered a mass shooting. And when it's not a white guy, it can be considered all sorts of things, but not mass shootings. Anyway, I'm kind of bringing this up first because I like the idea how we are being told that mass shootings happen so often, and especially in America, obviously, that they somehow forgot that shootings happen everywhere, continuously. Anyway, let us continue to the post of Barrack. Now, first they will say, no other nation on earth comes close to experiencing the frequency of mass shootings that we see in the United States. As I said a moment ago, that's mainly because you can define things the way you want it and then deny that something is a mass shooting and emphasize that other things are mass shootings that would honestly have to fall under terrorism. Because let's be honest, if we look at the El Paso one, and I don't know it, the guy was called Crucius, I think, and he did so because he felt that there were too many Hispanics in Texas, so he did this to kill Hispanics and try to prevent more Hispanics from coming. Now you could argue that this is racial based or ethnicity based, but it's definitely political. So it's terrorism. No, it's a mass shooting. So how come this is a mass shooting? I mean, the dude has a goal. He wants to achieve something. Anyway, I'm not going to go on that one too much. Continue onwards, please. Yes, I shall. No other developed nation tolerates the level of guns violence as we do. Well, there is this whole small thing of gun violence. And I know that Barack Obama likes to talk about gun violence in a way that all problems are obviously American. But are they really? Well, let's check, shall we? There is a list of countries by firearm-related death rates. I have to admit, it's firearm-related, it's not mass shooting-related, but then again, we've already noticed that nearly everything can be a mass shooting, but in reality, all shootings have a problem, yeah? So, okay, I can't really say all homicides are mass shooting-related homicides, but seriously, is America the worst? Well, I've been kind enough to have it start to look at homicide itself. And we see America not very far down the list, honest, at 4.46 homicides per 100,000 population per year. Which is, let's be honest, a high number. There are only a few countries higher than that. Well, on the top of that list, obviously Honduras, then Eswatini, not that I know where that is, then Jamaica, then Guatemala, El Salvador, hey, look at that, Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia, Panama, the Philippines, South Africa, Mexico, Paraguay, Costa Rica, and Uruguay are all above America. Now that is somewhat interesting, considering that Barack Obama was quite clear in saying that, well, no other developed nation tolerates the level of gun violence as we do. Does that then mean that the nations I just mentioned aren't developed? Or could it be that he is pushing a narrative that isn't really up to scratch or based on, let's say, anything like reality. Because if, for example, we look at South Africa, at 8.2, it scores almost doubles of what the United Nations score in homicide. And we do know that there are lots of mass shootings there as well. Because let's be honest, there's lots of farm attacks. And during those farm attacks, very often more than 4 people die. Not always, I know, but quite often they do. Do we emphasize this as a mass shooting? No, we don't. Of course not. Don't be silly. No, mass shootings only happen in America. Well, no, there are some incidents in other countries that it's too clearly to call it a mass shooting, but on average, we ignore most of them. Do we really? Well, yeah, we do. I mean, as I said, South Africa, not good enough. How about the Philippines? Only one above them. We had massive shootings going on there. Drugs related, fair enough. Terrorism related, fair enough. But it still happens. Brazil, it has a 5 times higher homicide rate than America. Look at Venezuela, socialistic country of the world. Well, I feel sorry for the people in Venezuela, don't get me wrong. 26 homicides per 100,000. I could go further up the list, obviously. I'll end up in Honduras with a massive 66 homicides per 100,000 per year. We're really going to say that these are all insulated incidents? That none of them had more than 4 deaths? I don't know in what country you have to live to believe that, but yes, every mass shooting is a problem. But to claim that this is because of America is being the worst and other countries don't do this, America is the only developed nation to tolerate such levels of gun violence, it's beyond me that people actually buy that shit, I'll not lie. But let's continue. Every time this happens, we are told that tougher gun laws won't stop all murders. That they won't stop every deranged individual from getting a weapon and shooting innocent people in public places. But the evidence show that they can stop killings. They can save families from heartbreak. We are not helpless here. And until all of us stand up and insist on holding public officials accountable for changing our gun laws, well, nothing will happen. These tragedies will continue. Let's pretend that this is true, Mr. Barrack Obama. Let's pretend that stricter gun laws actually will help. Let's look at this list, shall we? This is a list, again, Wikipedia, overview of gun laws by nations. And let's look at the United States here. And I like this list. I haven't cut or pasted anything. And then look at Venezuela here. Now, Venezuela, as you will notice, has a very restrictive acceptance of gun ownership. Let's call it that. And America isn't even the easiest when it comes to it, because in America there are places that have very strict gun laws as well. Places like Chicago and Baltimore. You know, the places with most of the homicides and most of the shootings. They have very strict gun laws. Venezuela, as we can see here, has very strict gun laws. May issue restricted, Open carry? No. Concealed carry? Well, if you're allowed to have one, it's automatically that you are allowed to carry concealed, but you can go to prison if you own a gun that you're not supposed to own. They have stricter laws than America. They have far stricter gun laws than America. They also have 5-6 times the amount of gun-related homicides. And this is not me saying, well, all gun-related, blah, blah, blah. No, because I know that a lot of gun-related homicides are, gun-related deaths aren't homicides, because suicides are the bigger number in that, which still is a huge problem. Don't get me wrong. Every death is one too many. But stricter gun laws won't change anything. It simply won't. It'll make law-abiding citizens more likely to become a victim of shootings. Again, I would like to point towards Chicago and Baltimore. Doesn't really matter much, does it? But it's a big problem because a lot of the death in America, a lot of the gun deaths in America happen in these cities. So, yeah, there is that. Now, which were the other countries? I can't remember. There were other countries. I'll go back up. Can I find Panama in the list? Obviously I can't, but I can find the Philippines. Again, stricter gun laws than America. Can I find South Africa? I should be able to find South Africa. Ah, here it is. Again, stricter gun laws than America. So how come these countries, which South Africa is here, and the United States is here, how come that a country with stricter gun laws than America has more firearm-related deaths? I mean, if gun-related deaths is indeed something that can be prevented by stricter laws, I fear, Mr. Barrack Obama, I fear you may be wrong on this. I don't really think you are correct that it's the laws that will change anything. Okay, let's continue. Second, while the motivations behind these shootings may not yet be fully known, there are indications that the El Paso shooting follows a dangerous trend. Troubled individuals who embrace racist ideologies and see themselves obligated to act violently to preserve white supremacy, like the followers of ISIS. I'm yawning up. Like the follower of ISIS and other foreign terrorist organizations, these individuals may act alone, but they've been radicalized by white nationalist websites that proliferate on the internet. That means that both law enforcement agency and internet platforms need to come up with better strategies to reduce the influence of these hate groups. And you know what, Mr. Obama? I think you're wrong. And let me point out why I think you're wrong. 51% of mass shooters in 2019, and obviously this is including the two from yesterday, a few days ago, 51% of mass shooters in 2019 were black. Only 29% of them were white. So there isn't a mass shooting as a white man's problem. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't white men shooting up the place as there are black men shooting up the place. Because, yes, criminals do crime. What a surprise. Now, if we look at the article itself, it's interesting. And I know people will say, well, listen, this is a right-wing nationalistic rag. Okay, I know. But if I look at the name David Horowitz, I'm going to assume that the Nazis will not like this person either. I don't know him personally, but I did read this article and I did check it up, and what he says is unfortunately really true. See, the thing is, there is a rhetoric going on in America for quite some time now, and President Obama is pushing this level of bullshit too. When people say that, oh, there we go, come on. Sorry, people, that's me being nasty. I don't know where to go. I would say our country should be more fearful of white men across our country because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country, according to Representative Ilhan Omar. Based on what precisely? And then, of course, there was the CNN reporter. We have to stop demonizing white people and realize the biggest terror threat in this country is white men. We have to stop demonizing people and realize the biggest threat in this country is white men. So we have to stop demonizing And then we have to recognize that we need to demonize a certain category of people. And then obviously there's the standard white men have... why is this always happening to me? And then of course there is the obvious white men have committed more mass shootings than any other group in America, which is based on nothing else but rhetoric. Because if we look at the shootings, here we go. Looking at the data from the mass shooting tracker widely utilized by the media, as of this writing, of the 72 mass shooters, perpetrators in the shootings that killed or wounded 4 or more people whose race is known, 21 of them were white. 37 of them were black. 8 were Latino, which some consider white as well, so let's add them to white, why not? That makes 29 white, 37 black, and 6 were members of other groups. Now that other group is then later specified as Asian, Native American, and 1 Arab, but yeah, there you have it. Most of them were committed by black people, according to this list, and this list is based on Mass Tracker. Come on, here we go. It keeps track of the shootings. Don't get me wrong, it's simple enough. It does what it says it does. It's bad enough that something like this exists. But okay, let's try not to be upset about that. Oh wait, not that one. Let's go back to where we were, shall we? Yes. So it's kind of funny that white people that only make up 61% of the country's population are responsible for less mass shootings than a group that only makes up about 13% of the society. And then we're not even talking about the whole idea of gangs, which is a large part of it. It is, yes. But okay, you know what? Links of the articles will be provided down below. You can read them up if you want to. But the whole idea that Obama is correct in claiming that mass shootings are a white problem, it is kind of nonsensical. And I'm not quite sure why he keeps doing that, but he does. But let's continue with his little writing, shall we? Where was I? I think I was... This means that both the law enforcement... Yeah, no, I did that part. But just as important, all of us have to send a clarion call and behave with the values of tolerance and diversity. Now, for the few people of you that have followed me, there is nothing I hate more than tolerance. Either we accept something or we do not. To tolerate means that we don't accept it, but for the time we will let it slide. That's rather a supremacist thing to do. I mean, I will tolerate you acting in the way you do. I disagree with you acting like that, but for now, it's okay. And diversity. What in diversity makes diversity a good thing? Now, I'm not going to say it's automatically a bad thing. I'm merely asking what makes it a good thing. Anyway, that should be the hallmark of our democracy. I'm not quite sure why diversity should be the hallmark of our democracy, but okay. We should soundly reject language coming out of the mouth of any of our leaders that feeds a climate of fear and hatred or normalizes racist sentiments. Leaders who demonize those who don't look like us or suggest that other people, including immigrants, threaten our way of life, well, or refer to other people like subhuman or imply that America, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I'm going to no longer spend time reading that part, and I'm going to show you guys just the sort of thing President Obama must be talking about, because it's really bad, you know, demonizing a group of people within the country based on their ethnical specificities. Now, this is from The Root, and most of you know The Root as a somewhat biased article producer, and this is an article from 2015, so it's not the newest one, but here goes. A forceful Obama decries racism and white supremacy in a eulogy. President Barack Obama tapped into the Black Church's soaring rhetorical traditions Friday afternoon to deliver a bold and brilliant eulogy honoring the Reverend Clementa Pinckney, a 14-year-old preacher and state senator who was gunned down along with 8 others at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston. Now, this is the incident where a white guy walks into the church and killed a bunch of churchgoers. I forgot his name. He was a white guy. I'll not lie. He was a white guy. I forgot his name. Do I condemn his actions? Definitely. Any murder is murder. I'm against murder. I'm not a white supremacist. I don't want people to be blamed on their ethnicity or anything stupid like that. But did he condemn the shooter? No. The head quite clearly says it's white supremacy. Fair enough, but it was one shooter. It wasn't 68% of America, or 63 or 61. It wasn't anything like that. It was one guy. Are we now to condemn black supremacists every time a black person kills white people? Can't we just say, that murderer, whether it was a mass shooting, he was a criminal, he was a bastard, he was the sort of people that should burn alone in a lake of fire for the rest of eternity if you're Christian? No, we have to make it about race. We have to make it about ethnicities. Why? For too long, Obama said, we were blind to the pain of the Confederate flag stirred in too many of our citizens. Why? I mean, I've seen black people waving the Confederate flag with pride. So, why is this? Why are you race baiting, Mr. Obama? Isn't this what you meant when you said that we have to send a clarion call and call all others to behave with values of tolerance and diversity, because that's a hallmark of our democracy? Leaders who demonize those who don't look like us or suggest that other people, including immigrants, threaten our way of life or refer to other people as subhuman. Isn't that just what you're doing according to this article? And you're praised for it. Again, links will be downstairs. I mean, I'm not even going to be bothered with the rest of it, but you get the gist. And this is divide and conquer for you people. It's not about black, it's not about white. It's about keeping you busy with whatever to keep you busy with, just as long as you don't start thinking about what the hell is going on. In all fairness, I've said this many a time, and I'll easily repeat it. I can identify or proudly stand next to black people and white people that fall within the same cultural cohesion as I do. Now, don't get me wrong, most followers of Black Lives Matter are white. Most followers of Antifa are white. They're not part of my culture, though. Neither is Black Lives Matter, neither is Antifa. They happen within our culture because our culture has become so tolerant that we allow people to do the most heinous of things and then excuse it for them. Oh yeah, no, Black Lives Matter. No, yeah, it's really terrible because so many black people get shot by the police. Never mind the fact that manifold black people get killed by other black people, but let's not mention that because that's just white supremacy when you bring that up. Yeah, but this is an actual problem in the black community. Black people are actually suffering from this. They're not suffering from bad police, which is still an issue. Don't get me wrong, bad police is an issue. But it's not as big an issue as Black Lives Matter would like you to believe. And let's be honest, President Obama was the Black Lives Matter president. It's lie upon lie upon lie. I mean, I made a video once where he actually defended the idea of a wage gap, which is, according to American law, impossible. And him being a lawyer, he should know that if he knows of someone breaking the law, he's the one who should act. And here he is in a tweet. I'm going to show it once more. Let me try to find out where I put it because I'm crap like that. there we go. In this tweet, he basically tells that we all should stand up and we should point out when people are being racist. Little did he know that he was talking about himself. Because we all know he meant someone else. And it's time for the overwhelming majority of Americans of goodwill, of every race and faith and political party, to say much clearly and unequivocally. Yeah, you know what? I'm rambling. This really upsets me. It's upsetting to me that a former president can tell the American people that the current presidency is failing, when stuff that happened during his watch were just as terrible. Just as terrible. I'm not blaming him. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Obama is the cause of this. But I will say that he did fan the flames just as much, if not more so, than he now blames Trump for doing. Anyway, before I start rambling all over again, this is when I'm going to call it quits. People, I hope you will read the links I have provided for you, and I hope you will look into the things I have said. It's not true because I say it's true. I could be wrong, and you could prove me wrong if you can actually prove me wrong. I would love to, because, hey, there's only one way to learn. Criticism, as always, is more than welcome, and I hope to see you all next time.